Hey party people, Jeff Stormer here with something very special for you. A feed drop of our new Patreon-exclusive side series, Party of 1+1. Our side series spotlighting sequel episodes, returning guests, and deeper dives into the games we play on the show. This episode was a follow-up to our game of Pale Dot with Patrick Burke a few months ago. We sat down with the game's designer, Devin Nelson, for a special bonus session of the game, and honestly, it was a really special and wonderful experience that I can't wait for you to listen to. I'm dropping this onto the feed for two reasons. One, Pale Dot is on Kickstarter right now. It's a great game, I love it a lot, and you should go check it out. The Kickstarter runs for a few more days at the time of this feed drop. It's fully funded. Go back the game, get your own copy, head to ttrpg.link/paledot for more information. Secondly, I wanted to say that, if this is the kind of episode you really love, where I'm sitting down with a designer playing their own game, we're demoing the mechanics, we're really deep diving into the game itself, you should really be checking out the Patreon. Moving forward, more and more of these episodes are probably going to live on the Patreon. We're doing a lot of work to broaden the show's focus, zero in on what is exciting to us about making Party of One right now, and reaching out to a lot of guests outside of sort of the indie game space. And that's a way to ensure that, I don't lose this kind of episode, which I really do enjoy, but that there's as much variety of guests on the feed as possible. So if you're a fan of this kind of an episode, now's a really great time to look at the Patreon and check out some of the bonus episodes that we've got coming out soon. And that link is at patreon.com/JeffStormer. With all that said, let's kick off the show. Hey, party people. I'm Jeff Stormer, and this is Party of 1+1. Deeper dives into the games, guests, and stories that we share on the main podcast. On this episode, I am joined by Devin Nelson for a playthrough of their game, Pale Dot. Pale Dot is a collaborative storytelling game for 2 to 5 players about a crew of non-human cosmonauts leaving their planet to explore a strange solar system, finding threads of the unknown to unravel along the way. It is fantastical, surreal, and perhaps very unlike humanity's own ventures in the space exploration, though one thing is universal. Leaving home is terrifying, dangerous, humbling, and a catalyst for changing one's own perspective. Carla Tortelli, the cat, has just come into the room. Hi, Carla. So everybody say hello to Carla. Anyway, I love this game. This game captured my imagination, and I've truly been thinking about it ever since we played it. It's just so weird and exploratory and magical and inhuman. It's just something special. I really love this game so much. I really think that you're going to love listening to it, especially if you've listened to the main feed and you've heard our episode with Patrick Burke where we also played this game. This is something special. You can find more information at devindecibel.itch.io, or you can check the show notes for more information. Now, party people, it took us exactly 2 episodes to start fucking with the format of this show. But also, I'm really happy with this experiment. I think this is a fun addition to the bonus episode milieu of the show. You've probably heard the newest episode of Party of One, where we played Pale Dot with Patrick Burke. What happened there was we started talking to Patrick about the themes of the show that they were producing for Philly Fringe, and how we could find a game that synced up with that, and Pale Dot was absolutely perfect for that. And we realized as we were getting ready to hit publish that we had this episode with Devin edited and ready to go, so why not release both episodes at the same time, give you multiple looks at how the game works, and then drop this episode on the main feed when it's ready in, I think, early next year. Anyway, this is a long-winded way of saying, if you enjoy this sort of thing where we play a game with the designer as well as an outside guest and sort of release both episodes at the same time as sort of a bonus episode type John, let me know. Shoot me an email or a tweet or a DM or whatever, and we'll do it more often. Anyway, with all that said, let's go ahead and throw it over to me in the past so that he can get started with the show. Take it past me. Thanks, future me. I am very, very excited. I am sitting down today with Devin Nelson. Devin, thank you so much for coming on Party of One.
Lovely to be here.
I am so excited. I'm so stoked for today's game. This is vibe is an understatement for the game and story that we are going to be telling here today. But before we get into all of that, why don't you take a moment, let our lovely listeners at home know about what we are playing this week, as well as anything else you've got going on you might want them to know about.
We're going to be playing Pale Dot, which is a collaborative storytelling game for 2 to 5 players written by me. It's about a crew of non-human cosmonauts leaving their planet to explore a strange solar system, finding threads to unravel the unknown along the way. It's a game about space travel, being little alien guys. It's fantastical, existential. It's surreal. It's whimsical. As you said, it's very vibey.
I'm so excited. And this is a thing that I've shouted from the rooftops a trillion times, and I will shout from the rooftops a trillion more times. How much art and prose and layout and all of the individual pieces of a game come together, and every piece of Pale Dot like conjures its own unique world. Like every page of the book, like I look at and I feel like I am transported. And so I have been just buzzing about this game heading into this recording, and I could not be more excited.
Hell yeah.
But along those lines, like what are you excited to dig into today? What are the vibes that we're bringing to the game? What are the touchstones? Where are we at as we head into the gameplay?
Well, the main touchstones for this game, obviously the title is a reference to Carl Sagan, Pale Blue Dot. He was one of my idols growing up. But the biggest inspiration, I'd say, is Outer Wilds, which is a video game. Do you have any familiarity with that?
I know exactly I know the vaguest plot, and it's only because Outer Wilds and Outer Worlds came out at the same time, and I had to forcibly learn the difference between the two so that I would not continue to get them confused.
One of them is a brilliant artistic indie game, and another one is like kind of a mid shooter.
Yes, exactly. So like they were out at the same time, and people were talking about both, and every time I'd be like, I'm not sure which one we are talking about. They'd be like, man, I got to the time loop in Outer Wilds, and I'd be like, there's a time loop, and also you have to like blow up a factory or something?
There is a time loop, there's not a factory.
Like this is a complicated game. There's a lot going on. That, and I know the song Final Journey. Is that the name of the closing track? Final Descent. It came up in what is it called? I have to look this up now because I think whatever the name of it escapes me, and I will find it so that I can remember it. But I heard it popped up in a Music League round. Somebody dropped Final Voyage. That's the one.
Yeah.
And I listened to it, and it just straight up, I was in my car, and it, without any context of the game beyond like the loosest plot summary, that piece of music brought me to tears.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I was
just
vibe.
listening to it, I was like,
that's the vibe of that game and this game. It's about like getting lost in sort of like an optimistic existentialism. And it really gets you in your feelings. And this also has a soundtrack, by the way, devindecibel.bandcamp.com. You can check it out there. The reason I made this game is because I love that video game so much, but that video game is like a puzzle game, sort of. It has like a set sequence of events that you need to like uncover to like push towards the ending. And that makes it not have like a huge replayability. So I've like, over the years, I've like, you know, vicariously enjoyed it through watching other people play it. But I wanted like to relive that experience and to be able to relive that experience infinitely. And I was like, oh, I'm a tabletop designer. I might as well try to craft that experience myself. And I think I achieved it, but you know, we'll see how it goes.
As someone who made a game specifically with that exact same impulse, inspiration, narrative thrust, I appreciate this. I am here for this. I understand the journey that led to the creation of this game on such a foundational level that I cannot put it into words.
I mean, you know, that's what being an artist is, and making things is all about, is like creating the thing that you want to see in the world, you know?
It truly is. And sometimes it comes down to like, I love a piece of art. It didn't do exactly the thing that I want. Well, shit. Now I guess I got to go do that thing so that it exists. All right. I'm so excited for this. I'm really feeling the energy. So why don't we dive right in? We've got some world building to build around, and then we are going to create some cosmonauts in our ship and then take off into outer space. Oh, yeah. So with that, I'm going to hand you the reins. Take us through the world building.
Great. So how this game is going to work is sort of a mashup of a game like Fall of Magic, where there's like a bunch of locations with improv prompts where we're going to set scenes. And it's also kind of a mix of like the No Dice, No Masters, Belonging Outside Belonging type games, where there's going to be like different slivers of like the setting that we each will take control of and be like, you know, mini GMs for. So to get a vibe for like what all of that's going to look like, it starts off with a few sections where we come up with like like our basic world building ideas. And there's 3 things that we're going to talk about first. There's like little prompts or like little paragraphs for each of them. We're going to take turns reading them, and then we're going to start coming up with some facts about the type of little creatures that we are, the world we come from, and what we've heard about the cosmos. Because those 3 things are going to be determine like what kind of creatures we are, what our like experience is, and then how that experience is going to be juxtaposed by all of the crazy stuff that we experience as we, travel to the solar system or through the solar system. So the first bit is the dustlings, which I'll read. We are the dustlings. We are sentient beings just like any in the cosmos, though we haven't met others yet. We have a small society just past the cusp of a modest technological revolution, one in which we've invented the means to explore what is just beyond our world. As fledgling cosmonauts, we've founded the Wondrous Endeavor, an organization that seeks to explore the heavens and our place in it. And with that, each player establishes one fact about the dustlings with the expectation that more will come up in play. What kind of people are they? What do they look like? How are they unlike humans? Are they horned, 3-eyed, or furry? How do they move? How do they communicate? Are they spiritual? Do they have any unique social norms? Since we're doing a 2-player game, maybe we should each come up with like 2, and we'll pass back and forth.
I think that sounds great.
So my instant thought is, I don't know if this is like much of a descriptor of like what our people actually look like, but it's definitely like a vibe that I'm feeling. What if our dustlings had sort of like a Jim Henson studio vibe? Like,
love that.
If there was a movie of the story that we're about to tell, I'd love for our creatures to be like weird puppets.
I'm gonna throw a similar vibe. I think maybe the other half of our of appearance and shape, because I had a really specific touchstone as I was thinking about like what shape I wanted them to be, and it really complements like a Jim Henson vibe very well. I immediately went to sometimes I am cursed, and the 2008 masterwork video game Spore eases back into my brain, and the idea of Jim Henson producing Spore the movie feels very good to me.
Oh, I hate these, but like not in a way where I want to reject it, but like, wow, this is some art direction.
Spore, I can't express what a strange video game like. The creature creator is very weird, and there was no shortage of like really truly cursed things that you could make in Spore, and like there was what can only be described as like a really thriving like alien creation community to create truly thousands and millions of just fucked up little guys. And like it is a game that I think about like. And the thing that stands out to me about Spore is like, it was a game with one of the weirdest, most fun character, alien species, monster builder things, like character generators that I've ever experienced in a game.
Oh, I just found a picture where somebody tried to recreate Pokemon in Spore. They look fucked up.
They're great. I love it. And there's ones where people try to make like a human or try to make like Homer Simpson or a predator. Wow. It's always good. Okay. But the problem was then you had to segue into a video game, and that video game was not good. Like, this is my experience.
Okay, here's what I'm getting from these 2 ideas so far. So like both these Spore creatures and like Jim Henson creations tend to have like an inexplicable and like arbitrary variance to them. Like each creature is like random and unique. And I think that's kind of a fun idea for our like creatures, that like no one is like anywhere near similar to another one in terms of like what their biology, physiology looks like. Or maybe they have a similar biology, but like their like manifestation of their biology, their physiology is like completely arbitrary.
I love this a lot. I think this is great. Truly, like Muppet group shot is, I think, the vibe. Or even more so in my head, like, what if the Dark Crystal came first? And like all of Muppets were kind of inspired by that sort of weird Dark Crystal aesthetic where everything's a little bit slimy looking. Like that's what's going on in my head. And I love this very dearly.
Excellent. Maybe we should both come up with some sort of like cultural fact about them as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to like work it in, but one of my first thoughts for like something important cultural wise would be what is it called? A exquisite corpse. Like the idea of like a portrayal of a thing that is like, you know, three pieces all contributed by different minds, like unaware of each other. And I'm like wondering how that could be a cultural thing.
Maybe I can take that and run with it into a cultural concept, because like I think maybe it's, how do we feel about this? I'm like, my pitch is that that is like a literal cultural practice. Like, or like it is a cultural practice, it is a technological practice, it is a like any tool that you take, you then alter in some way, and like it is as much repair as it is just like changing the shape of the object, and it becomes that these like, and in 3 generations the object is completely unrecognizable to what it was 3 generations ago.
Like a Ship of Theseus kind of thing.
Yeah, Ship of Theseus is a good vibe. Like you're constantly replacing things and objects. Like there's very little new things that are made, and it's just constantly not just repairing but like altering things to oftentimes become an entirely different object.
Yeah, and like sticking things together to make new like hybrids of things.
Yes.
The sudden epiphany that I had about this is like, what if each creature has 3 parents, and each parent like contributes like 1/3 of like the creature's body, and that's why they end up being so arbitrary.
I like that. And I really love this. I love that energy. And then like, yeah, that's good. That's good. My brain is like, maybe I yes and this, and I'm like, no, that's just a good suggestion that I'm just gonna let linger.
So maybe like culturally,
to,
like things that are like normal and stable and unchanging are kind of like strange and or taboo to us.
I like that. I really like that energy. That's a good vibe, and I like that culminates in sort of like space travel. This kind of pushes us, I think, into talking about well, actually, I think that the other social gnome I want to like leaning into a little bit of the nature of space travel, as it, I think it was almost the arrival at space travel was accidental in that sense.
Oh, like
it's a
one of us
sense
just
of like
ended up in space and was like, oh, there's some stuff up here.
We just kind of put the pieces together in a specific way. Like
we accidentally built a rocket.
Yeah, like it's like it's that energy when you're playing like a combination game and you put the 2 bricks together, and it's like, and now you've made a spaceship, and you're like, huh? How? Oh, well. Okay.
So far we've established that our creatures are incredibly vibes based.
Yep, that feels like a good energy. And so let's move on to the moat.
Yeah, please read the moat section for me. Sorry, cut.
We live on the moat, the only home we've ever known. It is a small world, a quaint, pale dot, but it's ours, and everyone we've ever known is there. While it was once touched by the Forgotten Ones, their influence inscrutable, and their influence is inscrutable, and they were long gone before we were sapient enough to recognize them. Most Dustlings live in the community of Speckle, which doubles as the headquarters for the wondrous endeavor. From the moat, we stare into the night and wonder about the enigmatic bodies that drift in harmony with us. And so we are going to establish 1 or 2 facts about the moat with the expectation that more will come up in play.
Yeah, what's our planet look like? The funny thing about this is that we're going to leave it immediately, but, you know,
sure,
it creates like the context that we have that will then challenge our perspectives.
I'm going to throw out a phrase that just popped into my head, and a visual that I think is weird, but that I like the energy of. Forested oceans is the phrasing.
Okay.
Like, imagine if a forest had tides.
Like, is there just really big trees that stretch out from the like ocean floor, and like half of the trees are like underwater?
I think it is in part, but I also think it is literally that like forests, like trees pop up, decay, and rot in almost like a tide pattern, but like in a way that you might wake up and you think there's a forest outside your window, and then there's not, but then by midday there might be again.
Oh.
Like a sort of like the movement of tides, but like it is the growth of trees and plant life and things of such a nature, like ebbing and flowing as though they were the tides themselves.
That's great because one of the 5 setting elements to play in this game is literally called the Tides of Uncertainty, which is like all of the like magic and arbitrary quantum weirdness that exists in the setting. So it seems like whatever is going on our planet, it is extremely touched by the tides.
Mm-hmm. I like that a lot. I like this energy.
Totally. I think that is my fact that like there's something about this planet that is like stuck in that like, you know, like arbitrary shifting quantum weirdness.
I love that. And I think a specific reflection of that is we don't have set seasons on the moat.
How could you?
There is right, like in a world so driven by tides, like there's no set, these are the 3 months in which it is cold. It's like, you know, you can forecast, like you can with the right doodad, you can be like, it's gonna start getting cold next week.
Well, the funny thing about that is that tides are kind of predictable because they're like based off of like the movement of the Earth and the Moon and the Coriolis effect based off of the spinning of the planet. Like there is like some order to it like in real life, but maybe like in this setting we don't have those like constants to lean on.
I really love that. The idea of a tide without that constant is very compelling to me.
Totally.
And the idea of like a world-spanning tide without that constant is extremely interesting to think about.
Here's my fact then. There's like 100 moons and they all go in like different directions. And that's like part of why everything is so arbitrary in terms of like ocean movements.
I love that. I really like that. And I like that they are different distances away and they're all on different like orbital arcs. So there's this real sense of like moon tracking of like what moon is on its way towards us as another one is moving away, and how are each of these moons going to impact 1 or 2 different things in there. What pieces of the moat are they each going to pull on?
That's awesome. I think that's actually good for the moat. I think we should move on.
Okay.
Cool. So
talk to us about the cosmos.
The cosmos. We have only just begun to comprehend the cosmos beyond our skies. Few have journeyed past the clouds and Iota, our watchful moon, and returned. They've all come back changed. Some no longer themselves, some more themselves than ever. The stories told make the cosmos seem infinite but claustrophobic. That it's safer to cling to our moat, for we will never fathom the weirdness of the stars. We are but particles drifting with the tides of uncertainty. Each player establishes one rumor about the cosmos. Consider what tall tales are told by experienced cosmonauts. Assume that space is even more strange and surreal than it is in our own universe, but avoid giving specific details about places unless you're willing for them to be potentially untrue. This game has set but vaguely defined locations for the characters to visit that will be detailed by the players during play. What have we heard?
So both a weird detail about the moat and also something that we've heard. Because I've immediately, based on what we were just talking about, I've immediately become obsessed with the phrase "our watchful moon Iota." That there are hundreds of moons all in different places, but this one is the one that watches over us.
Ooh, is it like stationary, like always in the same spot in the sky?
I love, that was exactly where my thought was that like there's this one moon that its orb that like is in such a particular orbit with the moat that it is constantly in the same place. It does not move and it always watches over the moat. And there is a rumor that is like a celestial balance or like a fulcrum almost. Like it is the thing that holds us level, is that we are perfectly in balance with Iota at all times.
That's kind of terrifying, actually, based off of what we've established of our people. That almost like seems like it might have like a deific kind of quality to it.
I like this. I like that energy.
Cool. Ooh, and if that's like sort of a deific thing, maybe like journeying past our realm of chaos is seen as sort of like a spiritual journey.
Mm-hmm.
So like all of the cosmonauts that have come back seem like, you know, like I said, some change, some more themselves than ever, but like they all have this sort of spiritual gravity to them.
And can I propose a spin on that exact concept?
Totally.
It almost feels to me like it is a like religious type experience, but almost in a transgressive way. Is where my brain goes. Like, it is almost like you are departing from the gaze of the thing that keeps us tethered to the world. There's almost a defiance in that sense, right? Like, if we are defining ourselves in perfect balance with the placement of this moon, then to go, I do not need this moon and I will venture beyond it to another place. Like, there's a certain defiant nature in that I think is really interesting.
I think that's a perfect segue to the next bit.
All right.
Which is our mission. So we're going to define like any number of these prompts that I have here to kind of like guide us in what our story is going to be about. And the two that immediately jump out based off of that is there is contention about the wondrous endeavor and it's time to prove its worth. The wondrous endeavor being the space program. So like,
yep.
There are some people that feel that, the space program is like blasphemy because we're like rejecting our like chaotic world and going past the like God of order and seeking like what's beyond it. And also there is something ominous about, there is something ominous and enigmatic about the Endeavor's intentions. So like not only are people like, yo, what are y'all doing? We don't need this. They're like, what are y'all up to? I feel like there's a conspiracy here.
I like this. The other one that really jumps to me is a strange phenomenon has descended and is affecting the moat in difficult ways. I want to propose, like, in a way that does not necessarily make immediate sense, but is fascinating. A second moon has settled in balance with Moat and Iota.
Like a competing moon?
Yeah, like a competing moon, and like all of the sort of ecological effects that would come from there suddenly is a second moon in an exactly polar opposite place to the other moon that is sort of continually pulling us in one direction.
What if it has like a high gravitational pull and starts pulling a lot of the other smaller moons towards it in like another orbit?
I like this. I really like that energy.
Like, it's like an ominous like order moon that is like upsetting the balance that we have.
That feels good. That feels really, really compelling to me.
Excellent. So the next section is called the mission target. This is a value between 2 and 12 that's going to determine how long the game goes. Since we're doing kind of a quick one shot here, I'm going to set that at 2. And what this means is that we need to collect 2 resources called keys, which we'll get at the different places that we visit. And these are like important thematic elements that will then contribute to whatever the ending is going to be. But that means that we need to collect 2 of them. All right.
That sounds great.
Cool. So the next aspect is determining setting elements. So there are 5. As much as I'd love to read all of the like cool words that I wrote here, we should probably summarize them for time. There's the cosmic wilderness, which is about like natural elements, both like flora and fauna and places and like the environments and creatures that we might run into. There's the wondrous endeavor, which is the space program. So this is going to encompass the technology that we have, the other cosmonauts that we might meet, and also just like the like progress of the space program and its history.
Sure.
There's the forgotten ones. So in one of those intro things, the forgotten ones are mentioned. There was some kind of creatures that visited us before we had like evolved enough to like recognize them, and they had some influence on our solar system, kind of ancient alien vibes. There's the tides of uncertainty, which I already mentioned, which is like, the magic, the chaos, the surrealness, the quantum weirdness. And then there's the omnipresent danger. And this one's like the most like GM-y. This is basically like anytime we're put in peril, whoever's in control of this one will describe what that peril is. And in anything less than a 5-person game, I always recommend that be the one that's completely shared.
Sure, that makes sense.
Also, all these setting elements both have 2 moves. One is a move to describe the things that it encompasses, and then the other move is to spend a token that is acquired through play, and those have mechanical benefits. The Cosmic Wilderness makes it easier to get resources, which like heal our characters and fix our ship. The Wondrous Endeavor makes it easier to acquire keys. The Forgotten Ones make it so that we can get 2 keys in a single place because that place was like deemed important by the Forgotten Ones. And then the Tides of Uncertainty, which gives a character a fucked up dream, and that allows them to heal one of their traits, which we'll talk about in a sec.
Yes, I was thinking about this very specifically. I was looking at them, and the thing that I'm thinking, that I think I feel most interested in immediately, and like I'm not sure which direction here I want to take, but the thing that stands out to me is that 2 of these, the Cosmic Wilderness and the Tides of Uncertainty, are like very environmental, and the Wondrous Endeavor and the Forgotten Ones like are both in some capacity like presences. They are people in places and people in like things in a way that is, I think, a little different. So I think what might be interesting is for each of us to take one of each of those varieties. Totally. I think is what feels compelling to me. And I think the ones I'm trying to think about, the ones that I want to interact with most specifically.
Yeah, that is the advice that I give in this game, is to not pick the one that the character you want to make will be most interacting with. Like the best example of that is like if you want to interact with creatures and like environments, don't play a biologist. Or like don't if you want to play a biologist, don't pick the one that's about creatures and natural environments.
I think I want to interact with the Wondrous Endeavor, so I'm going to take the Forgotten Ones to kind of like I think that feels right. I think I'd rather interact with the logistics of the mission and the technology, and so like I think I would like to take the Forgotten Ones. Also because fucked up old things is my jam.
Totally. I'll pick the Wondrous Endeavor then?
Yeah.
And then you said each
great.
of us should pick one of these environmental ones?
Yeah, I think that feels like a good pairing for us to have, is for us each to have a natural thing and then sort of an object to play with.
Cool. Do you want magic or nature?
That's a great question. I'm going to take nature. I think I'm going to take the Cosmic Wilderness. That feels really good to me.
Cool. Then I'll be the Tides of Uncertainty.
Great. And then we will both be the Omnipresent Danger, which means that now we are going to create our cosmonauts, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. So a cosmonaut is made out of 4 traits. And I have this list of words, and you're going to pick 4 of them.
I'm looking at the list of words.
And to tell you what these do more mechanically, they will be expended during play in scenes to acquire either resources or keys. So like you're going to highlight that trait about your cosmonaut and like how they're solving a problem with it.
I'm immediately gravitating towards management, and that tells me what I'm grabbing from that word, and also from thinking about the Wondrous Endeavor. I love the idea of a sort of like, what does a quartermaster look like in a ship where everything has been half retrofitted, half customized, turned into kind of a one-of-a-kind weird object.
Totally.
And that to me feel like that management jumps out to me. I'm thinking, what other words do I really like? Demolitions is very good, and I'd like demolitions management. I'm going to take old is very good now that I think about it. I really like old, and I think the 4th word that I'm going to take is I'm going to take prescient.
Ooh, okay. That'll make sense since I'm playing the Tides of Uncertainty, so I'm likely going to give you a fucked up dream.
Yep, that feels good. That feels good.
Excellent. Mine are ecology, daring, and since you picked old, I immediately wanted to go with young. And spirituality. I'm kind of interested in this being a like spiritual pilgrimage for my character.
I like that. I really like that. The vibe that I'm pulling from my character that I like pops into my head a little bit is With the caveat that this is the only thing that I know about the franchise that I am going to talk about in this moment. I know exactly two things, I think three things at the time of this recording when a very popular film adaptation of the property has just come out. I know three things about Dune.
Yeah.
I know there's a sandworm.
Mm-hmm.
I know that Lisan Al Gaib is is a meme that is circulating at the time of this recording. And I know, because John Hodgman has talked extensively about them in his various works, I know an alarming amount about the Third Stage Guild Navigator, which is
that the big,
a fucked up war?
Yeah, the big worm guy.
Man big worm man that sits in a tube and is surrounded by spice and sees through the veil of the warp and determines space travel. And the idea of that, but for the history of objects, like a sort of odd figure that exists to tell the various purposes of objects, I think is the energy that I'm pulling on.
So you're like a wise person that people consult to know about like the different things that they're like thinking about squishing together.
Yeah, and also and the previous things that were squished together to make the object that is in your hand. And so by extension the almost the possibilities of what you could use this object for, like, well, at one time that was a hammer until they added the bat wings to it. Then it became kind of a separate thing altogether. But now, with the addition of the drill bit at the end, it can really drill any surface on the ground or in the sky. And, like, breaking down the individual parts of it and, like, almost seeing through time to be like, oh yeah, that piece right there, that whirling bit that nobody can figure out, this was supposed to have little robot legs that it would do a little like dance. You would turn the key and it would dance, but we took the legs off because we attached it to that thing instead.
Cool. I'm thinking my character is like a gifted kid burnout kind of situation. I'm trying to think like what my big accomplishment is. I think I created a like hybrid coral species that started to like spread through our like forest oceans that like help clean our oceans. So I was like this sort of ecology advocate, like smart kid, kind of maybe a Greta Thunberg, but like of one of our aliens. But I think all of the attention that I've gotten as this like kid celebrity ecologist has kind of like burned me out, and now I'm like want to go on a cosmic journey to like find myself.
Great. A good energy. A very good energy. So we also have a curiosity, which is a short statement about what drives us. My curiosity is that the universe fits together like an object. It's this sense of like, I have devoted my life to seeing objects, knowing where they came from, and knowing how the individual pieces fit together to create a new object. And when I look out at the cosmos, and I look at Iota, and I look at this new moon, and I look at the moat, the universe on an infinitely larger scale is a bunch of objects that have been mashed together to create effects. I want to be able to break down the cosmos in the same way that I can break down a flying hammer.
Interesting. Well, we all know all of the different uses you have for flying hammers. So I'm thinking, since my character is kind of like a firebrandy type, that I want to have some sort of like contentious statement, like criticizing our people for the way that they live.
Sure.
So I'm thinking chaos is a crutch that frees us from the burden of responsibility. So like,
that's pretty good.
Since we see everything as random, we're like, whatever happens, and we don't need to take responsibility for our actions. And I feel like that is leading our people down a bad path, especially in the face of this new sort of thing that's happening. This weird moon has showed up, and everybody's just like, yeah, it's another random thing. That's normal.
I like this. I really enjoy this. This is good energy.
Cool. So those are the main components of a character. In terms of equipment, you're basically just going to assume to have an environmental suit, a propulsion pack, and whatever small tools you can carry. And we're assuming low tech but clever technology. And I wrote here, strapped together with adhesives and wires, which obviously seems like
that
the
feels
vibe.
Pretty perfect. That feels pretty perfect.
Yeah. Excellent. Now we just need to give our characters names and pronouns. And we should definitely decide if there's something distinct about our looks, since we have described our creatures as being like amalgamations of.
My character's name and description popped fully form into my head, and I'm very, very excited. My character's name is Junket. Junket, he, his pronouns. I want you to imagine a finger puppet. I want you to imagine one of the like rubbery Tyrannosaurus or monster-faced finger puppets with the white painted on the jaws that you put on your... And so, like, it's flat on the bottom with, like, a head and some arms. But it's 7 foot tall, and it has 7 arms. That's Junket.
Do you have legs?
I don't think so. I think it's just flat. It's almost like flat on the bottom. It's sort of just, I think he's just kind of cylindrical in shape.
Huh.
Flat on the bottom, tube-like, with arms and arms and arms and arms jutting out of this tube with like a big lizardy head. And I think it is, the only way that I can describe his movement is Muppet gliding. Like, is just glides from place to place as though there were a person's arm underneath moving him, and that's just how he moves from spot to spot.
Cool. My character has a small torso, long legs, and a head like a dandelion with a single eye. So like very small, like upper section, big puffy head with a single eye, and then like extremely long legs. But I think my like legs can like bend in a way where I can like compartmentalize myself in a small spaceship.
I like that. That's fun. That's fun energy. That's fun.
My name is Zil, Z-I-L, and I use they, them pronouns. Cool.
All right, let's talk about our spaceship.
Hell yeah. So ships work similarly to cosmonauts. They're going to be made out of a few phrases. So instead of traits, ships have features. And similarly, these are going to be expended to like deal with situations in play, mainly traveling between the locations in this game, which are called cosmic objects. So there's a couple of things here. I'm just going to read them because it's a shorter list than the last one. We can choose between hull shielding, reinforced landing gear, debris clearing beam, uncertainty stabilizer, ancillary thrusters, space hook, remote piloting system, range sensors, backup environmental system, external manipulator, comm unit, mirror bubble, emergency parachute, deployable drone, solar sail, and an anchor. And we pick 3 of these.
I know which one I want to pick first immediately. I want space hook, and I specifically want it visual. I want you to visualize a carnival grabber claw.
Cool.
Carnival grabber claw is the space hook.
Do we have a joystick in the
I think we gotta have. It's less not even so much a joystick as it is like a wheel. Like you spin a wheel, and then there's a big red button for it to like lower and or raise. Like that's it in a nutshell.
Cool. I'm gonna pick remote piloting system.
Okay.
I think we have like an algorithm on our ship that like knows how to like flow with the randomness of the objects in our sky, because, you know, with like hundreds of moons all like flying around in orbit, like it's probably difficult to leave. So I think we have like a smart piloting system. Also, neither of our characters seems to be a pilot of any sort.
The other one that I would love to propose, similarly, neither of us are pilots, so I think that they've given us an emergency parachute.
Hell yeah.
The idea of like, it feels very it feels very in line with the nature of this ship to put a parachute on it. Like, it feels very like we threw some things together, we stapled some parts together, and a spaceship came out. We should attach a parachute to that, because it might not last.
What do we think this thing looks like?
Oh, what do we think this thing looks like? Aesthetically, I think, and in general, I've been trying to pinpoint exactly where my head has been. Aesthetically, where I place where I envision the ship, and also a lot of our technology, especially like glued together with wire, like stapled together and covered with wires, I envision a certain degree of, I want to say it's the 11th Doctor's TARDIS, where it was just a pile of stuff. Just a trash heap, for lack of a better way to, like, there was one where there was just, there were alarm clocks and there were doodads, and that is, to me, the energy is like, this is like a Katamari, almost. It is like a giant Katamari Damacy ball floating through space.
The addition I want to make to that is every like system on the ship works via like a Rube Goldberg machine.
Oh, for sure. The entire ship is a Rube Goldberg machine. That's very fun to me.
We put that's the remote piloting system, is we like press a button and then like a marble falls down a track and you know, hits a dish that falls onto an ironing board, and you know.
That's great. That's really fun. That's fantastic.
Excellent. Does the ship have a name?
Oh, does the ship have a name? I like the Defiance of Iota.
Oh. Okay. So this is a blasphemous journey that we are undertaking.
This feels a little blasphemous.
Hell yeah. I can see how my character is blasphemous, but like, how do you think Junket is blasphemous?
How do I think Junket? That's a really great question. I almost feel like Junket, it comes from a sense of, there's almost a sense of like anarchic rationalism to it. Like, it's the blasphemy of saying, Iota, there is no magic to Iota. It's there because it's locked in a particular orbit. You can tell that because of X, Y, and Z. And look, that other moon just, this is no sort of like cosmic battle or godly drama. The other moon is just settled into a stable orbit in another position. None of this is surprising. Like, it is tied in the curiosity of the universe as an object, and I am going to understand it. It is taking those individual pieces and going like, aha, I understand how they work, and going like, this is not magic. There is no mystery to this. We can understand this.
Okay.
We don't have to stumble into a spaceship. We can just make spaceships. We can understand, we can like figure out the combination chain to reliably build a spaceship.
I mean, we did it at first. We did it on accident at first.
We for sure did it on accident, and I almost want to say, like, we still kind of do it by accident. Like, there's a little bit of Kerbal Space Program of, like, we're putting ships together. They might not work.
I love the idea that the first cosmonaut was somebody who like, accidentally got flung into space because of some weird device, but they also happened to be wearing like a weird pot on their head that made it so that they didn't suffocate. And then they came back down and like safely landed in a bunch of flowers. And it was just like a bunch of random events that like were like, oh, huh.
And the idea that like none of our two spaceships look or function the same because they're all completely different like recipes that have been followed to end in spaceship. And I think the blasphemous idea is like, we could just make one spaceship. and then build it that way again.
Yeah, you know how all the things work and how they work when they're put together. Why don't we just like do it better?
We can just follow the same, like we can make a formula.
Yeah.
And I think like that is a very controversial idea.
Wow. Okay. Cool. Well, I think we have everything we need to do to embark on a journey.
I feel good. I'm excited.
Excellent. So, while this isn't used immediately, we establish a turn order by determining which player most recently stared into the night sky in a place without significant light pollution.
It's almost got. I can safely say that that's probably not me, as I've lived in one of the 10 largest cities in America without having like really left that space.
Totally.
In years.
Yeah, I live in San Francisco. It's similarly both foggy and full of light pollution here, but I do have a story about this. This was in 2022, so it was like almost 2 years ago. But my band went on a semi-national tour, and I found myself in the middle of Wyoming in the middle of the night, and I'd never quite seen the sky like that before. Like I could see the whole band of the Milky Way. It was pretty crazy. Like,
that's wild.
It was like, even though it was like 2 a.m. and we were trying to get to Denver that night, we like pulled over and just like stared at the sky for like 20 minutes just because us all being like city folk had never quite experienced the heavens in that way.
My family used to my parents moved from New Jersey to Tennessee, so they see this shit all the time. But before that, they would vacation once a year in like deep rural Pennsylvania. And like that was the one time a year where we would drive so far out into the woods where I would have that experience of like looking up and going like, "Oh, this is what it's supposed to look like." well shit.
This is what it looked like until we invented light bulbs.
Yeah. Huh. How about that? All right, so I think you are going to go first.
Totally. But we have to do the launch first. So to begin the story, follow the steps below. The player in charge of the cosmic wilderness briefly leads a description of the moat and the settlement of Speckle. Imagine the opening shot of a film where the camera zooms in on the world. So that's you. What do we see as we zoom in on the moat?
What we see is it almost looks like time-lapse footage. We see a forest rise up, and drop its leaves and die and rise up again, and it looks like it is filmed over years. Like you are watching this rise and fall in this cyclical pattern of life and death. And then we see an animal like fly out of a bird fly out of a tree, and we realize like it's just moving that quickly. Like it is just the space, the flow of the natural skyline just moves with that kind of speed and urgency in places. And we see like birds flying along at normal speed as a forest almost breathes behind them.
I'm imagining sort of like an MP3 visualizer effect from space. Like just the colors are constantly like shifting and morphing, and
a very good reference point. And I think that we see like columns of like water shooting up and falling down, and Iota is like ever present and unmoving in the sky behind, and we watch slowly another moon like orbit behind Iota, and we see all of these things playing out as we zoom in on the city of Speckle, where all of the buildings look like they are 7 buildings stitched together. Like it is very kind of modular in its design. It is very kind of, each floor of a building kind of looks like it's a slightly different building.
I was about to say, I imagine like skyscrapers that are just a bunch of like houses stacked on top of each other with like a weird spiral staircase that goes around it.
Very precisely. That is the precise energy. And some of them have some of the buildings have like bridges between them. Some of the buildings, there are people swinging from them from one floor to the other. And we see the sort of structural calamity of it all as we approach the location of the ship.
All right. So everybody's going to play out a quick vignette introducing their cosmonaut. Show them saying farewells. Show them saying their farewells and reporting to mission control. So we've kind of established that like our version of the Wondrous Endeavor is like a little bit blasphemous. So do you think this is like a entity that exists like freely in our culture, or do you think this is a little bit more illicit?
I kind of like a little bit of illicit. I think that's a good energy.
Yeah.
Would you like to describe a scene for Zill, or do you want me to describe a scene for Junket?
Has been frustrated. They've been in grad school. They've been trying to like figure out what they want to do with their life. They're already sort of skating on their success, and it just isn't fulfilling. And they walk into the lab that they usually work in, and they just set fire to all of their research. And it burns down the lab. Thankfully, this lab burns down like, twice a year. So this isn't like that big of a deal.
Sure.
But, they're making a dramatic statement on their way out. And I think they've already kind of like cut ties with a lot of people. I feel like they're embracing blasphemy in a way that like everybody who is close to them feels ostracized by. So I think they just head off.
And I think Junket's exit and like heading to the spaceship is a little bit chaotic, a little bit slapdash, and doubles as a goodbye, but also in a way that like I think for as blasphemous as Junket is, he also like has relationships with people. And I imagine like it is in its own way similar to the ship the ship that he oversees and all of the other parts of Junket's life. It's a little bit of a Rube Goldberg machine in and of itself. We see him pop his head out of a sewer. An arm reaches up, grabs the back of a trolley car as he like pulls himself out of the sewer. He is flopping behind it like a flag. Hops down, spins around a pole, lands just in time to like break an object in half in somebody's hands and be like, bam, there you go. If you didn't snap it right at that joint, the whole thing was gonna fall apart. Just in time for a crane arm to swing by. Two of his 7 arms jump up, grab a piece of the crane arm, fly along, and like visit different people and do different odd jobs as he goes through this entire slapdash Rube Goldberg experience, including a small segment where like he lands and is chased by a small group of people that like do not want him meddling in their affairs. All of this is part of his planned path to the spaceship.
This is probably a me question based on me portraying the Wondrous Endeavor, but I'm kind of curious, like, if we have an illicit space program, like, where do we put it?
That's a really good question. I love things in the sewers is the answer. And the idea the idea of Junket popping his head out of a sewer grate, going on this entire Rube Goldberg adventure, and then falling back down a different open manhole to arrive at this ship is very fun.
It's like weirdly a quicker way to get there.
Yeah. It's quicker. It's also it may be quicker, it may be slower, but if you ask Junket, it's the only way.
Yeah. I'm imagining that it's close to like just a big random pipe that juts out of the side of the world that's like as tall as a skyscraper, and nobody knows why that pipe is there. It doesn't like really function in any like ways that actually help our civilization.
That feels good. That feels good.
So, couched inside this pipe towards the bottom of it is the Defiance of Iota. Let's see. The player in charge of the wondrous endeavor describes the launch setup. Answer: do dustlings gather to watch the launch? What is the public mood? Well, I think the only dustlings that gather to watch it are ones that are also similarly in our like little space travel cult.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we've already described the public mood as like you and me both being somewhat enemies of the state, it seems like.
A little bit.
But fuck it, we gotta stand up for what we believe in and, take the journey that we know we need to go on. So I think the launch setup is just like this big pipe that I already described. Our ship is like floating in a pool of water, and we're going to like jump into it. And that at some random interval that we know is going to be in the next 45 minutes, but we don't know exactly at what point, the water is going to burst through the pipe and shoot us into the sky.
That feels great. That's a good, and like, I think there is like a competing sense of the people that are around the Defiance. It is simultaneously almost a flight or like our launch plan and getting the fuck out of the way. Like it is a sense of like we have preparing things for a clean takeoff, and also I'm gonna not get within 10 feet of this thing in case a jet flame catches me.
Excellent. I also think that Zill and Junket are good friends. I like the
Sure.
It's like the trope of like the really young person and the really old person who like just both feel completely ostracized by everybody they know. They like find solace in each other.
I think this is great. So, which I think is a really good segue to our next piece of the launch.
Yeah. Everybody describes how their cosmonauts are feeling. Consider evoking their curiosity and or the mission. Some of the cosmonauts may have dreamed of the forgotten ones or the tides of uncertainty. If so, ask the relevant player for an omen. What's Junket's vibe right now?
Junket's vibe is rock and roll. Junket's vibe is slapping an alarm clock and spinning a whirligig and like conducting a symphony of weird little objects to get the automated pilot system ready to go.
You're setting up the like mousetrap device.
I have keyed into the voice casting for the Muppet performance of Junket. I have keyed into the voice. I can feel it now, and it is infusing me with the energy. This is a very Jeff Bridges character, is what I've captured, I've stumbled upon.
If Jeff Bridges was a finger puppet.
If Jeff Bridges was voicing a 7-foot-tall finger puppet Muppet, and is like slapping things and twirling things and just kind of leaning back a little bit like, let's rock and roll.
I don't know if I necessarily have any like ship skills, so I think I'm just like yelling and like waving my hands in encouragement. I'm already pretty amped up because I just burned down a laboratory. So the adrenaline is running. I'm about to like, say fuck you to this whole world and go on this big journey.
And I think there's like a split second moment before Junket squeezes the squeeze horn that wakes up the autopilot, where he leans in, turns back to you. You didn't burn down your lab today, did you?
What if I did? I wink.
All right. Squeezes the squeeze horn. Like, clearly, like, there is a split second where certainty of death crosses over Junket's eyes. And, all right, well, here we go.
Better than sticking around here, am I right?
And then squeezes the horn, and we blast off.
The horn wakes up like a small gerbil that like suddenly like runs in a random direction and hits a bunch of flaps that then spin a wheel and etc.
Precisely.
All right. Next, we need to collaboratively decide on the first cosmic object to visit. I think since we're called the Defiance of Iota, we should not go to Iota.
I agree completely. We are zooming past Watchful Iota.
Though we did invoke another moon.
We did.
So I am curious if we want to check out the inconsistent moon.
I really like that, and I want to almost add to that. Maybe we weren't planning on going to the inconsistent moon, because we established there are hundreds of moons that are just in all different positions.
Yeah.
Maybe our goal was to just go past Iota, and oh god, there's a moon there. Oh no.
So the description for the inconsistent moon is a meandering object completely steeped in the uncertainty and ever-changing. And also how the cosmic objects, like the locations in this game, work. Each of them has a setting element associated with it, which means that the person who is in charge of that setting element gets to describe all of the first vibes when we reach that place.
Love that.
So the setting element for the inconsistent moon is the tides of uncertainty, which is me, I believe. Also, each setting element has a list of 5 prompts. 4 of them are associated with the setting elements that aren't the omnipresent danger, and the last one is a wild card one. However, there is something that we need to do before we reach the inconsistent moon, which is we need to engage with the main mechanic of this game. When we're traveling between 2 places, we need to expend one of our features to overcome the omnipresent danger. So I think I think how this works out is kind of based off of what you were just saying, where we weren't expecting to go to the inconsistent moon. And also we've established that there's hundreds of moons all going in random directions. I think the way that the omnipresent danger first puts us in peril is that we need to get beyond these moons somehow. And suddenly they're all coming towards us.
That's good. That's a spicy meatball.
Which one of our features do you think is going to be the most applicable to overcoming this danger? Probably the remote piloting system, especially since you
That's exactly what I think that's the vibe. I think it's the vibe of the piloting system is there partially to get us past the moon. We are seeing, there is a sequence that we see unfold, which is this gerbil looks like a rock star or an action hero. It is jumping between 6 different wheels. Balls on string are swooping down. The gerbil is ducking and rolling between all of these different contraptions. And we are watching the ship do all kinds of things as you and I are just thrown around like rag dolls. We are just crashing against the wall.
Yeah. And I think there's a weird moment where we feel like we're about to collide with one of the moons. And then the second before that's about to happen, that moon disappears. What color sky do we have normally?
I've been picturing kind of yellow purple.
Okay. Kind of like the background of this game.
A little bit of the background of the game is sort of and perhaps that is why I've been envisioning it now that you mention it.
For the listener not looking at the game, there's a yellow and purple sort of watercolor background that I did for this game.
I think that feels right for the sky that we've been seeing.
Yeah. I think as soon as that moon disappears, we feel like we're transported to another place, and everything is black and white now.
Mm-hmm.
And we start to head towards the inconsistent moon. And I think this is the moon that we described earlier that has a really strong gravitational pull. I think with all of the devices aboard our ship, there's nothing that we have that is able to resist this pull, as we are then pulled towards this moon, but gently. I don't think we need to set off our emergency parachute just yet. So what does this place look like?
What does this place look like? I believe this is the Tides of Uncertainty, which I believe is your...
This is my decision. Really steeped in uncertainty. So I think this moon is like even more chaotic than the world that we're used to the point where like the borders between objects are like blurry. So like you see a mountain, but also that mountain seems like it's trees, and then also they are blending in with the clouds. And like we look around and we just can't like make sense of anything. And
that's very cool.
As people that are like used to chaos, this is like so far in that direction that it's almost like unsettling again.
Yeah, it is. It's chaotic by our definition of chaos, which for anyone else is bafflingly so.
Yeah. Fuck AI in most of its applications, but I'm imagining like the Google Deep Dream kind of effect.
That real 2008 Deep Dream when everything was cats.
Yeah, 2008, 18. You mean?
Oh, when did the first fucking? I want to say like the earliest, like whenever that first round of like you put a picture in and it turns into like spirals and cat faces. That vibe is what hits for me.
Yeah, 2015. Time is fake, though.
Yeah, there it is, 2015. It's only 7 years off. I got close enough.
All right, so then how this works, since I'm first in the turn order, I'm going to pick a prompt, and then we're going to do a scene based off of it. And like I mentioned earlier, each of the prompts has a setting element associated with it. And how this works is when we're doing the scene, the person in charge of the setting element that's associated with the prompt can like step into the scene and evoke that setting element. And from there, they can gain a token, which they can spend on the move associated with that setting element. Also, the person in charge, the person whose scene it is, can also decide that they want to gain a key or a resource. And to do so, they need to provoke the omnipresent danger again. And then we're going to have to spend traits to deal with it.
That feels good. That feels great.
And since we're kind of like jamming ahead as a one shot, I feel like maybe we should do that immediately. Let me think which prompt I want to do, though. Oh, I know what it is. I'm picking the cube, an experiment in resisting transmutation, which is going to be a Forgotten Ones prompts. So, you know, we land. I think Junket is compelled to like check out all the bits of the ship to make sure we're good. And Zill steps out of the ship. You know, they're kind of already in like this daring mode that they've been in. They're just kind of fucking down for whatever. So like they just step right out without any concern and try to take in this like ever changing vista. You know, mountains becoming sky, and they like scan the horizon until they see the cube, the one object in our vicinity that is not doing anything. And I'm like, oh wow, okay.
An object of perfect stillness as everything else is swirling.
Yeah.
Like it's that I mentioned time-lapse photography earlier. It is that cinematic effect of one perfectly still object and a time-lapse happening all around it. And what we notice is nothing on this moon is everything feels new almost to a terrifying degree, right? Like everything is constantly changing, constantly refreshing, constantly shifting. Nothing feels like it has a sense of age to it, a sense of history to it. Nothing has lingered, except in the immediate vicinity of the cube, where the grass is brown and brittle, and there are trees that are veiny and overgrown and entangled, and it is this like space that is not frozen, but paused and has grown and almost rotted around with like chaos and changing all around it.
Like we're used to it, like the life cycle of a tree being, like the seed sprouts and then it like grows and dies in like a day. But we're not used to seeing a tree like melt into a pond.
Yeah.
So I imagine I run back into the ship and find you like feeding the gerbil, and I'm like, Junket, you gotta see this. Especially as somebody who named this ship Defiance of Iota, the one like constant object that we know. Like, here's a second constant object.
Kind of flops out of the ship, looks at it. I don't like that.
We should check it out.
We should definitely check it out. I don't like it, but we should for sure check it out.
So this is a Forgotten Ones prompt, which means that whatever this cube is, it was like left behind by the ancient aliens.
Yes.
Do you have any thoughts about that?
I do indeed. And like, I think it is to resist transmutation in a space where there is only transmutation. And I think like what we experience when we get close to it. I am taking my token. I am evoking the mysterious past alien influences. Is the way that it does that is that time has not stopped. Time has slowed down.
Oh, so it's like sort of a singularity,
like a kind of a singularity. Like we feel ourselves start to like age, and we feel like ourselves shifting and passing in our own, like around, like as we approach it, we feel our own like body slowing down. Like the like how does it feel when time stops on your person? Like that is the feeling that you experience, because it's kind of the only way that this device has to stop a thing that is constantly changing, is to slow that change down as possible, as much as possible.
Are we still able to like ambulate and like move, or do we feel like our bodies are slowing down to nothing as well?
Oh, that's a really good question. I want to say that's an omnipresent danger question is really what that is.
Yeah. I think this is a very important object, and I think we can definitely try to get a key from it. So I definitely want to provoke the omnipresent danger here.
Yeah. Like we are becoming mired in like a chrono pit.
I have kind of a wild idea.
Yeah.
What if we end up like transporting ourselves thousands and thousands of years into the future from this moment?
That's pretty sick. I like that.
Because like,
I'm into that.
That's like a common sci-fi trope, is if you get too close to the black hole or you need to go on a long interstellar journey or something like that, like time dilation then separates you from everything you know in time.
That's pretty great.
Like, so you and me start walking towards this cube, like to just check it out, like unknowing to us, like decades and eons are starting to pass on the moat.
I would love to spend an ability
Totally.
To overcome this danger.
By the way, since we're playing a 2-player game, how this works is we need to spend 2 total traits in order to acquire the key.
Okay. I would love to spend one of my 2 total traits.
Cool.
I think time has, like, we've arrived at such like a time singularity black hole experience that is being generated by this machine. At one point, we look out and see older versions of ourselves on the other side of, like, on the outside of the thing, landing and like pulling levers on the ship to pull us away from it.
So we see ourselves leaving ourselves behind?
We see ourselves closing a time, like we see the other side of a time loop. of us of us like pulling ourselves out of it so that we can go on this adventure and eventually come back to this moon and pull ourselves out of the device. Like there is some true time fuckery happening here where we have reached such a singularity point where we have been removed from time, and after we remove ourselves from time, we will have to come back and free ourselves from this same moment.
I love how this would be like a climax in like a sci-fi movie, and it's like the first thing that we're doing.
And like we're seeing it, so we're just going like, all right, I guess at some point we're gonna have to come back to this. Duly noted. Don't forget that.
Which doesn't make sense with linear time, because we'd have to get out of here to leave to then come back to help ourselves.
And we're like, well, I guess I'm going to have to think about how we're going to have to figure out how that works in time and then make it work that way and then come back and free ourselves.
Yeah. Wow.
Our work is cut out for us. What's the other quality that we're using to overcome this?
So I should have mentioned this. Either the trait is spent to overcome it, or is the trait that like causes the danger to occur in the first place. So I think I'm expending daring. I think I just like barreled ahead into this thing, and you kind of like followed after me like, hey, wait. I think something's happening. And I like put us head first into this weird object. Then when we get closer to it, do we see that it is a machine? Does it have like machine-like qualities?
Not as we think of machines. Like this is very clean.
Well, to us, a machine is a gerbil and a pinwheel and
right. There is no Rube Goldberg to this. This is a perfectly clean cube that we have like encountered.
Yeah. Awesome.
And so like it looks weird to us because there's not 47 other bits cycling around.
Yeah. So what do we think is the key that we gain from this? Like what important clue to our journey do we uncover from this? I kind of have a thought, but I'm curious what you think.
Give me the thought.
I think that, not only was were the Forgotten Ones like creating sort of a stable object as sort of an experiment to like see what happens when it is in the vicinity of this like extremely like chaos seeped world. I think it also like runs by having like an artificial like black hole in it.
Sure.
And I think what we discover like is a wormhole. I think we get to the like surface of the cube and it is rippling like liquid, and I think we can pass into it.
That's great. I would love to immediately, upon discovering that, exit this world and go to our next location in the most chaotic way possible. Junket is flying into that wormhole. I am flying our spaceship into the wormhole.
So did you follow me in the ship as I like ran into the cube?
I think like here's the full description of like what occurs.
Yeah.
I chase after you. We feel ourselves slow down. And we start seeing time passing on the outside. After what looks like we see years pass, we see another iteration of the Defiance of Iota land in front of us. Older versions or the same age versions, like time is weird. Alternate versions of Junket and Zill come out, pull on the it's not burning the asset on our ship, but like pull on the grabber claw. Reach in, like it moves. We see it move and we see it slow down, but it wraps around us and like before it can freeze, pulls us out of the range of the thing.
Excellent.
We are grabbed by a grabber claw and pulled out of it. We look at ourselves, future us, our alternate us gives a nod, climbs back into their spaceship and flies immediately away. And Junket, dead silent for a moment, she goes, so I'm going to fly us into that wormhole.
I think the reason that we were able to be picked up by the claw is that as time was about to stop, as we like reached this like weird like mercury like surface of this cube, we heard the ship, we turned to face it, And in doing so, we caught a view of the moat, and all of my like opinions get validated in the worst way possible as we see like all of the life on our world like turn gray and die.
Yeah. Yes. I love it. That's fantastic.
And then we are picked up by the grabber claw and then shoved into the wormhole by ourselves in our own ship.
Well, I think we're pulled, like, I think it's that we're pulled, like, out of the field of time distortion. And then Junket, like, after Alternate flies away, Junket kind of sits for a moment and goes, so we're flying into that wormhole, right? We're gonna blast off and fly into the wormhole. Yeah? You're down with that?
Fuck it, there's nothing left for us here. We got to be ourselves in the future that save us in order to keep the time paradox from occurring.
I don't know how to do that. That's not fly into a funky wormhole.
Let's fucking go.
All right. And I think like blasts off. We feel the ship slow down as we are pulled into the wormhole and spit out at another spot.
Just as the like local sun of our solar system goes supernova because we've just advanced time another like we've quadrillion years.
Been trapped here so long. We watch the sun burn out. We pull and we are blasted into another time and space into our second location.
Hell yeah. I love the just like let's fucking go energy of this so far.
Yeah, fuck it. We're going.
All right. Do you have any thoughts about a second cosmic object?
I would love to. You know what? This actually feels great for. This feels great for out of a wormhole. Not sure where we are in time. It feels real satisfying to arrive at the remains of the Torchbearer.
Okay.
The Endeavor's first successful launched ship lost at a debris field. And as this is a wondrous endeavor, I am going to say that, like, this is...
That's me, by the way.
Oh, that's you? You're right, that is you. You're the thing. Which makes me wonder if I want to pull something with one of the other... No, you know what? We're sticking with it.
No, here's the thing. The way this book is laid out is that there's 3 pages of cosmic objects that each have 8. And the way I sort of suggest that these work in like space relative to each other is that the first page are the things closest to the moat and the last page are the things farthest away. Do you think you want to maybe like just fling us completely on the other fucking side of the map?
Third page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because those are the more like crazy dramatic places to go.
I think I want to throw us to... I mean, these ones are good. This is good energy. I want to throw us to... gotta throw us to the Endless Orb.
Okay.
Yeah. We come out of a wormhole and there's just an unfathomably large object that is always in view, a vast world of purple rock. We just come out, we get spit out of a wormhole in front of a gigantic purple swirling mass. Hey, Zill?
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
Do we know what this is?
I mean, no, but, you know, everything's ever changing. Everything is something new to learn. Let's go learn about it.
Let's go learn about it. I don't like it, but I'm already piloting the ship to the location.
The gerbil looks at both of us like, y'all real about this? Y'all serious?
What feature? I feel like we've already established the danger to get here. What is the feature that like gets us through this?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
Well, it's probably to land, so it's probably the emergency parachute.
Be the parachute.
Yeah.
You know why it's the emergency parachute?
Because the gerbil rebels and doesn't want to pilot us to this world.
Yeah, the gerbil just stops. Looks at us. The ship enters into free fall, and we're like, well, you know what? We got a parachute.
And we've been describing this as a gerbil, but it's probably some like weird little like blue creature with like 3 tentacles and, you know, cute little ears.
Yeah.
Something gerbil shaped.
Gerbil shaped. And what is the... And I think like it is impossibly large, and it is almost deceptively large.
Oh, it's like a fractal thing. We like are falling towards it and we think we're going to land and then we're still falling for like another 10 minutes.
Yeah, like we continue to fall and it's so large. We almost don't see a horizon.
The horizon almost like bends backwards.
Yes,
and like the sky becomes like a dot.
Exactly, precisely. Like it is so unfathomably large that it looks like it bends backwards on itself.
Take that, flat earthers.
Yeah. Shit.
Take that, flat orbers.
And
you said the orb was flat?
What?
Nah. It's concave.
Nah, it's endless. And what is the feature that we want to interact with?
Like you mean what prompts or like what?
Yeah, what prompts are we playing with?
Well, our options are unsettling flora or fauna, defying all expectations, hidden in plain view. Oh, sorry. Unsettling flora and fauna, defying all expectations, which is a cosmic wilderness prompt. Hidden in plain sight, how have we never noticed before, which is a wondrous endeavor prompt. The quarantine vessel, why did they abandon it, which is a forgotten ones prompt. The path to the other side of infinity, which is a tides of uncertainty prompt. And then a nightmarish landscape, what does it want to show us, which is a wildcard prompt.
I would love to, because we've been spit out through a wormhole. I think we've arrived at the path.
Oh, okay. Almost as if like
what is that?
The chaos, the entropy of the universe has like led us in a specific direction and we're just going with the flow.
Yeah, like this wormhole like pushes through this planet, pushes through this orb. What is waiting? What is lying ahead of us at this moment?
To the other side of infinity is the prompt. Well, if one side of infinity is death, then the other side of infinity is birth, right?
Okay, I've got a pitch.
Oh yeah. What's that?
We land and we almost sink. Like the ship kind of X-wings a little bit where it partially submerges. We hop out and all around us dust is swirling and spiraling. And we are watching like this mammoth object, this endless orb and the pathway to infinity being birth. We start to watch like pieces of dust swirl and like begin to watch a universe born. Like we have landed on the object that will spiral into the Big Bang.
Shout outs to all the people that have played Outer Wilds. I'm not going to say anything else.
All right, great, love it. I'm gonna play this game, and then I'm gonna play this game, come back to this moment, and go, "Ah, damn."
Yeah, you will. Though I feel like I definitely want to describe the parachute first. We did describe it as like spiraling towards this object. What does our parachute deployment look like?
What does the parachute look like?
It's definitely got to be like a patchwork kind of thing that was all like,
oh, for sure,
sewn together. It's like trash bags and blankets and
it's not one
leaves.
Parachute is what it is. I think it's even going further. It's not one parachute. It is 117 different parachutes that all shoot at the same time. So it's like
half of them break.
It is a blanket and a trash bag and all the other things, but they each pop off in different ways. They each like plop out and like the ones that stay attached lower us to the ground.
Yeah. No, I think we like collide with the surface of the planet and I think it like almost starts to like suck us into it. And then that like morphs the shape of the planet almost into like a weird like cylinder and then we're falling through like primordial unformed space.
Yeah. That's great. I like that. I really, really love. And then we land and they're just surrounded by swirling dust that is turning into a galaxy.
And we're like outside of it somehow.
Yeah.
Excellent. I feel like we need to get a key out of this, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's funny since we're playing a short game, there's a lot of the mechanics that we don't need to interact with, but so we don't need to worry about like resources and stuff like that. Oh, by the way, I should take a Tides of Uncertainty token for this.
Yes, you should.
And I think it'd be fun to immediately expend that.
Okay, sure.
And give Junket a weird dream. So, Junket, you dream of what it's like to be a god. You have this galaxy like in your hands, and you feel the stars like sifting through your fingers like sand. In Junket's like vision for like what could be, what sort of like thoughts and willpower do they put into this? In this hypothetical like god dream?
I think this is good. This is good. Okay, I know my answer, and I know like how it impacts Junket immediately.
Good, because I'm gonna ask you to change your curiosity.
Good, because they build the ultimate functioning machine and they watch the universe die. Like, they build the ultimate, like, in this instant, they build the ultimate functioning device and they watch that device, like, wither and die like a grape on the vine.
Like, it has too much order and that, like, the universe rejects that almost?
Yes, exactly. And they just, like, tumble out of like, they watch it, like, just fall apart. The pieces don't fit together. And
I know what it is too. Like, life, at least in the way that we understand it, had to do with like random sequences of chemicals like colliding. Yeah. So like if you take out random elements from the universe, nothing ever happens.
And that's precisely what it is. Like Junket like is like, well, I'm going to engineer the perfect thing, and no pieces of it fit together because you need random junk to turn into a cosmos. And I am taking a moment.
So you don't need to change your curiosity, but I do want you to edit it.
I have fully changed my curiosity.
Oh yeah?
I have inverted it. The universe is random junk. Let's smash it together. I think in this moment, like having been awoken to the true, like, chaos of the cosmos, and like has gained a completely different understanding of like the cultural practice of exquisite corpsing technology, of just like, fuck it, it's all chaos. Let's see what happens when we like let's see what happens when we smash two parts together.
Well, I think both of us are like learning some sort of lesson here about like balance between chaos and order.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out like what even happens next, though. We have acquired. We need to spend traits.
I'm spending management here. I have tried to micromanage, and it has dissolved.
Are you having like an endless like nightmare sort of where you're like in the nightmare you are God and you need to make a better universe and you just like can't figure it out and it's like a stress dream?
I think this is precisely, and it's finally when I wake up and I have to give up, and that's when I wake up.
Oh, that's awful.
Yep.
That is like a recurring nightmare I have, where I have to be responsible for like some high stakes thing with like no good help. Which is also funny because my curiosity was chaos is a crutch. I didn't write it all down. Chaos is a crutch that frees us from the burden of responsibility. Though I don't think I have this dream. And also like in terms of like time and space, like where do we end up when you wake up after you've had this unsettling vision? Because I think this then sets off the ending sequence.
We're gonna get funky with it. I think we'll kick off the ending sequence. I wake up on the ship. You are just sitting there, like, looking at me with a look of, like, hey, are you good? And immediately we are landing on the inconsistent
jump in real quick?
moon. Yeah.
You hear the sound of like stars exploding, and they explode over and over and over and over, and eventually they sort of coagulate into a sound, and the sound of stars exploding turns into the sound of your name, and I'm shaking you. I'm saying, Junket, 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 wake up.
Huh? I'm not God.
Yeah, bro.
Okay. As long as we're in agreement.
What is that? And then I point out the like viewport of our ship.
And we are immediately passing by like the same but a different inconsistent moon.
Oh, also, what do we think is the key that we got from the second one?
What is the key?
So the first key was like a vision of our world dying from inaction. And I think our second key is
let's fully invert that, because I think this also ties into like this is our closing of the time loop, is that this is a universe reborn but different.
Yeah.
Like we see what is unmistakably the inconsistent moon, but like its color scheme is shifted. And it's like somehow, like in the cyclical nature of all of reality, we have come back to like a pretty similar timeline, and we touch down, and there is like a slightly different looking Defiance of Iota.
Yeah.
And we're like, we should probably, I think we're supposed to. Do we have to? We should. Right?
Well, okay. I think we're getting lost in the sauce of good ideas. We both also have to expend a trait.
Yes.
I think that the trait that I'm expending here is young. I think I am like working through my naivety here.
Sure.
What about you?
I think I am spending old and like transcending age, for lack of a better way to put it.
Yeah. You're like seeing the start and end of the universe.
Yeah, I have seen age past my own age.
Wild. Okay. So, the mission complete sequence. This is a good time to take a quick break from telling the story and talk about your experience thus far. We're just going to keep moving ahead. Consider how your characters have changed over the course of their journey. Discuss what sort of ending the group wants and agree on what the overall tone should be. Are you interested in a happy ending? Do the cosmonauts need to make a sacrifice for the good of their people? Do you want the ending to be unresolved and open to interpretation? Do the problems facing the Dustlings overcome them in the end and cause an end to everything, paving the way for something new? Regardless, the ending should be messy and weird and should reflect the experiences of the cosmonauts. When everybody's ready, take a look at the acquired keys. What sort of story do they tell? What do they compel the cosmonauts to do? Do they actually provide a solution to the mission? The answers you find will be equally influenced by logic and emotion, and the direction of the ending doesn't need to make sense as long as it feels right for the story. When the path forward is established, start a medley of scenes, beginning with the current active player, which is me. Each player describes something that happens in about 1 to 4 sentences, then passes to the next player. These events can be surreal, involve time jumps, and don't necessarily need to happen in chronological order. Repeat this for as long as it feels appropriate and until the players are satisfied with the conclusion. Finally, if the cosmonauts are still around at the end, give them a brief epilogue. If they aren't, give a brief vignette of what comes after them. All right. So obviously we need to pull ourselves out of the time cube. We need to like set things back onto the current path. We've gone through this like weird vision of seeing worlds die and be reborn. We're working through our own issues. And we realize that in order to like, you know, have any actionable like path forward, we at least need to like get the time. We need to get time back on like a path. And I think that means, you know, closing the loop, helping ourselves out of the time portal, or the cube resonance. But then we leave them to like, you know, continue the next part of their journey. And I think we head back to the moat to like see to see what the moat looks like now in this, you know, new timeline.
And I think like as we approach, we approach the moat. I'm trying to think, like, what is the thing that is, like, visibly, profoundly different?
Well, even all of that like God stuff was just a dream. Do you feel like your struggle to play God there like influenced reality in any way?
I think it did.
Like
I think
the universe witnessed you trying to make a world of pure order and like learned from that.
Yes, that feels good. That feels right. And I think the one significant change is, I'm going to say aesthetically, it is now perfectly inverted. We are coming down on like an entire planet. The moat is now all gleaming. Okay, here we go. Now it's I've keyed into what I would love to throw out as like the ending beat.
Okay.
We are coming down in the Defiance of Iota. Pile of junk that has been stitched together. We begin to land, and the world of the moat is entirely looking like the structure of the cube from the Inconsistent Moon. Everything is sheen, everything is smooth, everything is pristine, and our object is now an object of the forgotten one. Like, our object is now that of the Forgotten Ones, the technological force from before history. And so the final shot is a ship of the Forgotten Ones touching down in the middle of the moat. And then we see the doorway open and we begin to step out of it.
I was going to say, do we become our own Forgotten Ones?
I think that's exactly the ending.
Just to piggyback off of that, I like the juxtaposition of having this super chaotic world where we feel the need to introduce order to it. And then we get too lost in the sauce with the order, see what that's like, end up creating a world that starts with perfect order, and then we feel compelled to introduce chaos to it.
That's good energy. That's good energy. And with that, I believe that's game.
I kind of want to do an epilogue for each of our characters, though.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
Do we end up in a time that we recognize? Or are we now like the prehistory of our own world?
Oh, I really like us being the prehistory of our own world.
So that's like kind of a sad ending, but we did also just like ostracize ourselves from our community and cut all ties with it. So, you know, that is what it is.
Actually, I kind of think I like it more if we are in the exact same moment that we left, with just the world being different.
Oh, and because we're next to the cube, time dilates, but like in the opposite direction. So like time is passing extremely quickly, and then we like catch back up to where we were.
Precisely. That's I think how I feel. Like I think we touched down at the exact moment that the ship is taking off, and then things change, and the world has just changed.
Okay, then what is the element of chaos that Junket introduces?
Smashing together objects. This is a world where everything is clean and purpose built and precise. But I know that the universe is chaotic, so like I take two like clean tablet supercomputers and just smash them together.
Excellent. I think I somehow start like crafting the ecology of our world to still be random, but like at a slightly slower pace. I feel like there's a better equilibrium to be found in the nature itself, which I'm then hoping will influence like the like philosophy of our people, like our perspective on order and chaos, hoping to find a better place like in the middle.
I love that very dearly. I love that a whole lot.
And I don't think we see what comes next, but hopefully it's a better world.
Nope. I think that's game. This fucking ruled.
Hell yeah.
This was amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
This was one of the wackiest games of this I've had.
We swung for the fences immediately and consistently.
I've done a lot of games of this where there was like really deep, like emotional stakes and like really heady, like philosophy. But I like in this game, we both just like both put our feet down on like different gas pedals and just like flew the spaceship into infinity.
And said, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
And the fact that we so immediately were like, we're going through a wormhole, we're making a top, we're closing a time loop.
We're playing God.
We're playing God. Fuck it. Fuck it. Live.
Hell yeah.
Good shit.
Hell yeah.
Good energy. Well, thank you so much for joining me. This was amazing.
Thanks for having me.
And before we wrap up, where can people find you and your work online?
You can find me at most places at Devin Decibel. You can find me at Devin Decibel on Itch, where I post games like this. You can find me on Bandcamp, where I post music. I'm a composer. I have a band. My band's called Gloomy June. We tour somewhat frequently around the United States. Sometimes we hit up Canada. I don't know. I don't really got anything else going on. Oh, listen to my podcast. I'm on an actual play podcast called Oathsworn, where we play Band of Blades. I think those are all the big plugs.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you again for joining me. This was an incredible experience. And for now, I'm going to throw it over to me in the future so that he can wrap up with the show. Take a future me. Thanks, past me. And thanks again to Devin for coming on the show. When I tell you I've been thinking deeply about this game for months now, like when we played this game, like I've been sitting on this and like feeling the energy of this weird existential cosmic adventure. Like this fired so many of my engines all at the same time that like this game was truly something special. And I'm so grateful that we got to play it. You can find Pale Dot on Devin's itch.io page at devindecibel.itch.io. You can also find links to all of their other works on their Linktree page. That's linktree/devindecibel. Or you can follow them on Twitter and Blue Sky at devindecibel. Speaking of social media, you can follow us on Twitter at Party of One Pod, follow us on Blue Sky and Tumblr at Jeff Stormer, or on Party of One Pod on Tumblr, Party of One Podcast on TikTok. It's Party of One Pod or Party of One Podcast everywhere in the internet. You'll probably find us. Except Mastodon. I'm not learning what a federation is. Party of 1+1 is produced and edited, as always, by Jeff Stormer and Jen Frank. Music for the show comes from the soundtrack to the 1990 video game RoboCop. And the Party of One logo is by Evan Rowland. If you'd like to talk about this episode or any of the other ones, head over to our Discord at bit.ly/partyof1 Discord. If you're a Patreon member, you should already be in the Discord unless you've left, at which point, get back in there. And of course, Party of 1+1 is supported by the Patreon, as well as all the other podcasts that we make and the games that we design, all that kind of stuff, all of which is supported directly by the Patreon. So thank you for your support. And of course, if you enjoyed the show, tell a friend, recommend they join the Patreon, or just leave Party of One, the main show, like a nice review on social media or a nice iTunes review, something like that. All of those things help grow the show and help new people find the podcast. And I mean, I think that's really all we do here. So until next time, you know how it goes. Thank you so much for listening. Remember to fight the forces of fascism every single day. Remember that self-love and self-care are radical and defiant acts of resistance. And as always, party on, everybody.